Hello and welcome back to the workshop, the Folklore Hiking Stick Workshop. I'm back in here. Last week I had a lot of catch up to do and I managed to get on top of the game with that. I've now kind of been able to ratchet down that frantic pace and I'm at my more normal pace. I've got a custom order that I'm in the process of getting ready for a lady. And on top of that, I'm straightening sticks in here. I'm getting some toppers ready to go on hiking sticks. And I've got one that's been kicking around since, I think I did a video on it about doing an epoxy inlay. But it's been sat here since well before Christmas. Quite simply, I haven't had time to complete it. So that's been brought out. And I've got a lot going on and I'll let you have a little look so you can see what's happening. It is a Sunday, but because of the weather, nothing's happening with the family. Everybody's in watching TV. So I'm just coming in just to give myself a little bit of breathing room for Monday. So I won't be spending all day in here, but with how I run this workshop, every time I get a spare moment, I come in and I dive in, dip out, dive in, dip out. And that's how it operates. But I'll let you have a look. Right, you can see I've got a stick there and it's being straightened. It's in the jig. You might just see the bend. I've got a little black dot on it. That indicates the area I'm trying to straighten. So I'm just letting that cool off. And I'm using the heat gun method, obviously, when I'm using the jig indoors. In fact, I'm having a few difficulties with my steamer, and that's largely down to myself. But over here, the workshop's looking a mess. This is the Valhalla model that I started but haven't completed. And I've got that epoxy inlay. And as you can see the multicolours in it, but it all needs polishing, cleaning out, sanding. In fact, all this stick needs another quick, very fine sanding, because it's been in the workshop that long now that the wood has started to take on a slightly dirty, used look. So yeah, unfortunately I've got to spend probably another 20 minutes giving this a fine polish after I've completed what I want to finish on this stick, quite simply because it's been kicking around in the workshop. So I'm going to put this back in the rack with the blanks that I've got, which I'm going to be using to do hiking sticks this week. But yeah, this is the custom order. And it's a very dainty stick for a lady. She wanted it barked. I think I've got to do a squirrel on it, but I better check that. It's either a squirrel or fox. I will check that before I burn on it because I don't want to get that wrong, and her name. I've got to sand in a top on this one. I left it blank because I wasn't sure what kind of top, whether she wanted a flat, round or peaked crown on her hiking stick. And I've got to put a top on, not a top, a copper tip. So as you can see, yeah, quite busy. I've got to get this one done today, actually. Right, and this topper here of a wood spirit, I just want to do some amber eyes in it as something different. It's relatively finished. It needs some sanding and some gentle corners taken off it. But before I do that, I want to get an amber inlay on the eyes, so they kind of have a little bit of a ghostly appearance. And then seat this on basically a nice stick. I will shape all the top. This is just the rough carving in a piece of wood that was of suitable size. But yeah, I want to get the eyes some amber epoxy inlay in there. Now this isn't one of my designs. It was actually gifted to me when a gentleman came. I think I talked about him when he came and took about 10 or 12 sticks away from me. And obviously he's a stick maker, and this is obviously his version of a crook. Mine are slightly wider and a lot heavier gauge, but quite simply because it seems to work when you're trying to grab a sheep round the legs. This may be a little bit small, but it's more of a decorative one, I should imagine this. But I'm going to find a nice shank or stick and seat this on top. But I want to get it drilled out, and I might actually get this seated today. I don't know. I have a nice piece of holly here, one of the few pieces that I did collect the previous year. You can see it's holly because obviously I've got HOL just left on the actual shaft there. I've got a complete rounding out and beveling out the actual lanyard hole, but it's not a bad sized hiking stick. Straightened quite well. There's some knots. The actual bark has a nice colour. Sometimes you get like a little bit of an olive green tint to it, but this has kind of like olive with a little bit of like a rusty red in it, which is quite nice. But I've got a bit of a decision to make. I don't know if I'm going to try and use up this piece of roe deer antler and just seat on top, not as a thumbstick or of anything in that vein, just for it to be ornamental. So I'm making my final decision before I do anything there. But I've got to get on with this custom order and then everything else in this workshop. And I'm continually straightening while I'm doing this. That's cooled off now. So what I can do now is find the next bend and then start correcting that. Right then, when using this particular jig, you have to go just beyond with enough pressure for my setup here. If you want it dead straight, you just got to bring it a little bit beyond where you want it to be. Because when you release the pressure, the outside bits of stick do relax slightly. I'll see if I can show you. Right, if you look out at the very end there, when I release the pressure, you'll see it rise and that spring back. See it coming up slightly? Right, that's it, all the pressure's off. Right, I'm going to get this stick out. I did mention that steam straightening was becoming a bit of a struggle for me, and that's quite simply because of the damage to my eye, and I'm using my other eye to look down the length of the stick. When I'm steam straightening, I find myself having to redo the same bend I'm trying to take out 2 or 3 times because I don't feel I'm getting it done correctly. That's quite simply due to the poor judgment that my, less dominant eye is giving for accurate straightening. And because once you've got the stick out the steamer, it's cooling down, there's only so much you can play around with a piece of wood before it will snap or it loses its elasticity, because you might have to take out 3, 4 or 5 bends, and if you're continually redoing the same one because you're struggling to get to grips with the curve, or taking the curve or bend out, it just becomes a long, frustrating, drawn out process for me. So I'm now back using this method, which is slower, but it allows me the time to I heat the wood up, I put it in, I straighten it, I can take it back out, heat it back up, put it back in, and I've got more time to play about with stuff. It's not where I want to be, and I'm hoping, as I said in a previous video, once I have my eye operation on my dominant eye, I'll resolve this matter. If not, I'll be resigned to having to carry on and work with this method. But yeah, traditionally I would look down like this, and it would be this eye here, but it's just a length of whatever, I can't determine. And I'm using this eye. Right, trying to take the bend out. I think I've got one there. So I've got my thumb on it. I've just worked out where the bend is. You might be thinking, why am I using a marker pen on bark? It's not a good idea, but it just sands out with a very, very fine grade sandpaper, extremely easy. Plus, that dot allows me, that's the extreme upright position that it's got to be in. So I just preheat the wood. And that's at a temperature I can just put my hand on it. I'm putting the protective sleeves over the wood so I don't damage the bark and the wood underneath by causing pressure points in it. Right, I've just got a little bit of pressure on it, not too much, but from here I'm actually going to bring the wood up to the temperature I want now. You don't want to make the wood too hot. There. Now I'm just going to bring up the pressure on more. This will be this is experience doing this. You can't really teach anybody. You'll snap a few before you you know, actually work out what's right for your setup. Right, I'm just looking down through, and I look down through here. It might not look a lot to you, but me looking down there, I can gauge how much pressure I've got on it. You might just see it's beginning to hump up a bit. There. Hear that? You can just hear that that's under a fair bit of tension there. And I'm looking at this area here compared to the back area. So you can see that's humped over a little bit. So it's a lot of pressure, but that will spring back slightly. I'm taking the bend out from the dot, probably an inch either side of that dot with this setup. So guys, the hot air method is an extremely valid method to straighten sticks. In fact, I would probably guess 75% of stick makers probably use heat or dry heat over steam. But because I've used the steam chamber for a while now, it's so much faster, and I can do a stick. I mean, you don't have to let this fully cool off to when you release the pressure. I do, because sometimes you can get slight spring back. So I always let the wood go completely cold and then do the next bend. Obviously that increases the time for me straightening a stick. And you will often find me darting in and out of the house even when I'm not working in the workshop, just to come in here and set another bend and then go back in the house for 20 minutes, half hour while I'm doing other stuff. Come back in here for 10 minutes, take another bend out, so I can keep the turnover of fresh hiking stick blanks for me to keep crafting. It's a slow method, but yeah, it does work and it is valid. And at the moment, it's the only real option I have. Sorry for the gloom, but we've had thunder and lightning now. I've decided I think what I'm going to do is I'm not going to use the threaded bar method on this. I'm going to do a wooden peg to go into this. Just quite simply because I think it would match it's going to match the actual stick itself. So yeah, I shall probably make a wooden peg on this one. So I'm just going to drill this out at the moment. Right. Because this all needs shaping and sanding, I can actually afford to clamp it in this metal vise. Not too hard, it will leave a slight imprint, but like I said, this is all going to be rounded off and shaped. But I'm going to be heading down in here with a drill bit. And it's going to be this drill bit here, and it's of the 20 size gauge. So I'll measure that out. That's not going to take too much meat away. In fact, I would go so far as to say this might be too big. There's not going to be a lot of meat there to. I'm probably going to have to do a threaded bar on this one because I don't have a smaller size one of this. Well, thunder and lightning. Let's have a quick look out. So when I'm doing toppers, I usually start them off a lot bigger than this. Like I said, it's not my design, and I didn't get it to this point. It was gifted to me by another stick maker, and yeah, I was very grateful for that. He had some of my blanks, which I've discussed in a previous video that I don't usually do, and yeah, but I'm going to work this with what I have available. I don't have that other drill bit in a size that I can go down that small. So it's left me with no option but to use the threaded bar method on this one. Which yet again is a valid method. I thought I lost my drill bit key. I've just found another one. That's the trouble with this workshop. Because it's not strictly just a workshop, it's used for any and everything. Things kind of get a little bit waylaid. Right, make sure I'm not on hammer. Right, get the central there. There. It's always worth taking that fraction bit more time to try and get things right, as in central in that. How deep's that? That's plenty deep enough. I don't really like making too much in the way of sawdust in here, but like I say, I've had no choice. I can't go down in the woodshed because it's too wet. Hear the rain out there. Get a small bit of paint. There. Add my epoxy. Oh, this epoxy is quite stiff. I should have taken it indoors for an hour just to get it to room temperature. Let's see if I can just fill that eye. Yeah. Do the other one. Put in that. Right, I've just pulled that piece out, which was the piece I was just straightening. And I've pretty much got a third of it straight. I've just got to continue up through the middle. But I'm just tweaking another one here, which I've selected for this to go on top of. So I've put it up onto the workbench and clamped it just so it doesn't fall off. I've walked in and had some near misses, just not been careful, got myself caught or something and almost pulled it off on myself. So I've got it clamped there. But yeah, I've got that going on here at the moment. But I'm heading out into the other part of the workshop because basically I'm going to be making some sawdust. Now, I've got to drill the lanyard hole in this one, and I've also got to bevel it out, and I've got to bevel that one. So I'm going to do it out here just to stop me getting too much sawdust in the other part of the workshop, because it does tend to get everywhere after a while. Right, I'm about to drill down through this stick, and it's the one I've just pulled out of the straightening jig. And I've got the other one back in there now, and I'm straightening out another curve in there. And that's the one that was up right there. So you can kind of see how things are going in this workshop. I've got about 5 or 6 projects on the go. And by doing it when I've got a little bit of time now, I'm speeding up everything that I got to do. And on Monday, it'll make things a lot faster for me. Well, that turned out to be quite a job. The camera was going off and on, and or switching itself off and on, while I was dealing with resin that or epoxy that was, well, it's quite cold in here, so it's quite hard to get out of the tube. It's quite hard, it's not flowing very well. But we're here, we got it done. A little bit more mess around the whole thing, but like, it makes no difference because this is all being sanded and cleaned up anyway. It's just that the process becomes more messy, but it's done and it's seated. I shan't touch this for 2 days, this particular stick. I'll let the epoxy really harden off and cure, and I'll move on to straightening. I'll be in and out of the workshop throughout the day, but I've got other things to do. I've just been reminded we've got to get kids packed lunch stuff before the shops close, so I've got to get that done, and I've got to get on with wood burning. I might get a chance to do some wood burning on that stick tonight, but it's looking like it'll just be straightening a couple more sticks, and yeah, cracking on tomorrow. So I've got a little bit of headway. This is a job I don't have to do tomorrow. The other sticks that we put the lanyard holes and basically routered out, or shall we say chamfered out, they won't have to be done. I can crack straight on with them tomorrow. I've kind of gone off the idea of doing the antler on top of that hazel. I think I'll keep that as one of my sort of like basic model hiking sticks, but in holly. And on top of that, wood spirit, I can sand out and clean that all up tomorrow and polish those eyes so they come out like stained glass. So yeah, a productive little bit of time in the workshop. I hope you enjoyed coming along. This is how this workshop operates. It's kind of a little bit in and out, in and out, in and out. But yeah, thanks for coming along and sharing a small bit of time with me while I'm in here getting myself covered in epoxy resin. So all that has to be said is take care, stay safe, and hope to catch you guys on the trail.